This fake HOA cop tied my son beneath his treehouse and set it on fire. I didn't hear screaming at first. I smelled smoke. Thick, bitter wrong. I just pulled into the driveway, still exhausted from the hospital, still wearing the same clothes I'd slept in on a plastic chair beside my wife's bed. 2 weeks earlier, I'd held her hand as we lost our unborn daughter during childbirth. 2 weeks earlier, my world had already collapsed once. I wasn't even supposed to be home. I was on emergency leave from the teams, active duty, still serving. I'd come back because my wife needed me, because my son needed me, because there were some losses. You don't compartmentalize. You just survive. And then I saw the tree. Our tree. The one in the backyard where my son had built his treehouse with me last summer. The one where he used to climb up and pretend he was on watch like his dad. The one where he laughed. It was on fire. Flames were crawling up the trunk, licking the wooden ladder, eating through the boards like paper. Smoke rolled into the sky, dark and fast. And under it, my son tied. Rope around his body, his back pressed to the trunk, eyes wide, face straw with ash and terror. He wasn't screaming anymore. He was too scared to breathe. There was a man standing there, black vest, black cap, the words HOA cop stamped across his chest like a cruel joke. He was holding a red gas can, calm, still watching for a second, just one. I couldn't move. My brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. This wasn't a nightmare. This wasn't shock. This was real. I heard my son say my name. Not loud, not crying, just broken. Dad. Something inside me fractured so completely it didn't even feel like anger at first. It felt empty, cold, focused. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. Because to understand how a fake HOA cop felt entitled to tie my child to a burning tree, you need the backstory. My name is Ethan Cross. I'm active duty Navy SEAL. I don't talk about it. I don't wear it. I don't bring work home. The HOA president, Marjorie Clean, hated my family long before she knew anything about me. She hated that my son played in the yard too loudly. She hated that my wife parked slightly crooked some days. She hated that we didn't attend HOA meetings. But more than anything, she hated that we didn't fear her. While I was deployed, she filed complaint after complaint. Unsafe structures, unauthorized play equipment, fire hazard violations, every notice addressed to my wife while she was pregnant, while she was grieving, while she was alone. When my daughter died during delivery, Marjorie sent a condolence notice attached to a fine for the treehouse. She demanded it be removed. I hadn't even buried my child yet. I replied once, calm, documented, legal. I told her the treehouse met code. I told her harassment would be reported. I told her to stop. She didn't. She escalated. And while I was still holding my wife together with shaking hands, she sent someone else to finish what she started. Standing in my backyard with fire, with rope, with my son. And in that moment, watching the flames climb closer to his legs, I understood one horrifying truth. He wasn't trying to scare me. He was trying to take the last thing I had left. I screamed. Not words, not threats, just a raw sound that tore out of my chest when I saw the rope bite into my son's skin and the fire climbing higher. Neighbors poured out of their houses. Doors slammed. Someone yelled my name. Someone else shouted to call 911. I didn't hear any of it. All I could see was my boy. I ran. The fake HOA cop stepped in front of me, arm out like he thought he could stop a hurricane with a hand. He started. I punched him hard. Not rage, not revenge. Instinct. The punch landed in his ribs with a sound I'll never forget. He folded, air exploding out of him as he stumbled backward, dropping the gas can. It hit the ground and rolled, fuel sloshing out into the grass. I didn't even look at him again. I went straight to my son. The heat was brutal now. The ladder was already burning. Flames crackled above his head, embers raining down onto his shoulders. His shirt was singed. His arms were shaking so badly he could barely hold himself upright. It's okay, I said, even though nothing was okay. I've got you. I'm here. My hands shook as I worked the knots. Whoever tied them knew what they were doing. Too tight, too fast. Panic made it worse. Behind me. The man groaned and tried to stand. Stop, he rasped. You don't understand. I didn't turn around. I felt it before I saw it. The burns red, angry, already blistering along my son's arm where embers had landed. The smell hit me like a punch to the gut. I got the rope loose. The moment he was free, he collapsed into me. I held him tight, shielding him from the heat with my own body as someone sprayed a hose from the side yard. Water hissing against flame. My camera above the back door blinked red, recording everything. The fake HOA cop staggered closer. "You're ruining this," he said, coughing. She said, "That's when I stood slowly." I turned and faced him. Neighbors later said my face didn't look human in that moment. I don't remember what I looked like. I remember what I felt. Nothing. No fear, no hesitation, no thoughts racing, just a single unbearable focus. He took a step toward me, lifting one hand as if to stop me or maybe to grab me again. I didn't wait to find out. Then I saw it. His other hand dropped to his holster. Slow, deliberate. A pistol. That was the final line. I moved before the weapon cleared leather. I closed the distance in 2 steps and drove my fist straight into his jaw. Not wild, not sloppy. A clean, full strike. Bone cracked under my knuckles, and his head snapped sideways as his knees buckled. The gun came free in the same motion. I didn't stop. I took control of the weapon, stepped back just enough to create space, and fired once. Center mass controlled. Immediate. He collapsed hard onto the ground. Flames continued climbing the tree behind him. Smoke poured into the air. I dropped the gun and turned back to my son. Neighbors were everywhere now, screaming, shouting, someone dumping water on the fire, someone else calling 911. Hands grabbed my arms from behind, pulling me back as adrenaline finally hit. "Get him away," someone yelled. "Sir, stop." I didn't fight them. I let them hold me because my eyes were locked on my boy. I ripped through the rope with shaking hands. Burn marks were already visible on his skin, red, blistered, raw. He cried out when I touched him, and that sound nearly broke me in half. "I've got you," I kept saying. "I've got you. You're safe. Dad's here." Blue lights began to flash through the trees. And that's when I realized this wasn't just going to be a rescue. It was going to be a reckoning. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. The police arrived fast. Red and blue lights tore through the smoke as patrol cars skidded to a stop along the curb. Officers poured into the yard, weapons drawn, shouting commands that layered over one another. Firefighters followed seconds later, hoses snapping to life as they attacked what was left of the flames. Climbing the tree, paramedics went straight to my son. They knelt beside him, gentle hands replacing my shaking ones, cutting away his scorched shirt, assessing burns, checking his breathing. He cried when they touched his arm, and that sound nearly dropped me to my knees. "I'm right here," I told him, even as they lifted him onto a stretcher. "Don't look at anything else. Look at me." An oxygen mask went over his face. And 4 followed. One of the medics met my eyes and gave a tight nod. "He's alive," she said. "We've got him." Only then did I look away. The fake HOA cop lay motionless on the grass, blood darkening his vest. Medics worked on him, too. Compressions, oxygen, frantic instructions shouted back and forth. But I could tell by the urgency in their movements that time was already running out. Officers separated everyone. Neighbors were pulled aside, hands still shaking, phones still raised. Statements started immediately. Voices overlapped. He tied the boy up. There was fire. He had a gas can. We all saw it. An officer approached me slowly, palms open. "Sir, we need you to stay right here." I didn't resist. I didn't argue. I handed over my ID when asked. Active duty military credentials still warm from my pocket. The officer's posture changed the moment he saw it. Not fear, not deference, just gravity. "Your cameras?" he asked. I pointed toward the house. "They're running," I said. "Front and back." Detectives arrived before the ambulances left. They pulled the footage immediately. Multiple angles, clear audio, the tying, the fire, the gas can, the attempted draw, the shot. Nothing missing, nothing edited. Truth frame by frame. The fake HOA cop never regained consciousness. The call came an hour later while I was sitting on the curb, hands strewn with soot, staring at the scorched tree. "He didn't make it," an officer said quietly. And that's when the investigation exploded outward. They followed the money. They followed the contracts. They followed the emails. Marjorie Klein didn't confess. She didn't have to. Records showed she'd ordered the removal of the treehouse. That she'd authorized enforcement. That she'd paid the man directly from HOA funds and labeled it a fire hazard mitigation expense. Texts recovered from her phone spelled it out even clearer. "Make it permanent. He needs to learn. The kid will scare him straight." She was arrested 3 days later. Charges stacked fast. First-degree murder, attempted murder of a minor, kidnapping, arson, conspiracy, abuse of authority, financial crimes tied to the HOA. She received life in prison without parole, plus $650,000 in restitution. Every cent of my son's medical care included. The HOA dissolved within weeks. Assets seized, board members removed, every rule she ever wrote erased. My son survived. Burn scars remain. Nightmares too. But he's alive. He laughs again, quietly, carefully, but he laughs. And every time I walk past what's left of that tree, I remember the truth she never understood. She tried to take the last thing I had left. And instead, she lost everything. And that's how one act of cruelty meant to terrorize a family ended up exposing an entire system of rot. Proving that when someone tries to take the last thing you love, the truth doesn't whisper, it roars. What do you think, folks? Did I do the right thing? Or did I do what any dad would do in that situation? What would you have done if a fake HOA cop did that to your son? I'd love to know.